So coming in, this is our main service, feeding the building here. This will be the main thing. If for whatever reason you'd have to shut it all off, which hopefully you'd never have to, you'll just push this button and it'll dump everything. So it'll shut everything down completely in the building. Right now we have a temporary generator. That temporary generator would kick in and it's feeding only the life safety panel. So the life safety panel, everything feeding that. We'd have a few hallway lights, and I know the lights in this room are all life safety. So there'd be lights in here. When the battery gets switched over, the battery will instantly keep on, and it's going to be life safety. The critical panel, the equipment branch panel are all going to be fed off the battery. And I think the battery is set up to feed for about 3 hours. And if it is sunny out, the solar will continue to charge the battery even if this was off. Once the solar gets fully commissioned, which will probably be next week, they're going to come and fully commission all the solar stuff.
What else is on emergency? The elevator's on emergency, Linac and renal, right?
Yep.
And then that's about it.
And
lights.
And red outlets throughout the building are going to be all on emergency, and egress lighting. So there is almost no lighting in any of the rooms that are not on emergency. Almost all the rooms will go completely dark if power is shut off, except the hallway. So there'll be a way. I mean, once we get out in the hallways, you'll be able to get out of the building. There's a little bit of HVAC equipment that is on equipment branch, but not very much. Almost your air conditioner won't run.
Oh yeah, the air handler shuts down.
The air handler shuts down. So there's not heat. There's just a little bit of light. I mean, all it's really designed for is to get people out of the building safely.
Finish up the renal, if you're getting transfusion, right? Done.
Yep, and there's supposed to be enough power in the battery to finish the linear accelerator treatment that is going on at the time. But I would under no circumstance recommend trying to do a second thing on the linear accelerator because it draws quite a bit of power. So that's kind of what is designed. How the battery is going to work is it's going to get down to a certain level, and then when it deems it unsafe, it's just going to shut off. So then everything's going to be completely dead once you get to the bottom of the battery. So it's going to go down, there's going to be no warning, it's going to just shut off.
It does have load shedding though, doesn't it?
No.
No?
There's no load shedding in the battery. So, but the load shedding would be manually load shedding. So in order to do proper load shedding, you would take the
renal off or whatever.
You would take the equipment branch would come down first, and I'll show you in the next panel where those breakers can be fed from. And then we'll go down to critical branch would come down second, and the life safety should never kind of be shut off. I mean, that's going to be your last load you're going to keep on. There is a generator plug outside, so if power company says you're going to be down for a while, you can come and run the generator to charge the battery and keep the battery charged. So if you do hook the generator up, and that'll be once the battery's here and you get trained on that, there'll be a load shedding thing. You're going to have to manually shut the breaker off to get power to the generator coming in here. So that'll be kind of a manual transmission if you ever have to hook the generator up.
So there's a Kirk key on the battery itself?
No.
It's not really a Kirk key.
It's not really a Kirk key. What it is, instead of a Kirk key, is it's a shunt trip on the generator breaker. So if there's normal power coming in, the generator breaker for the generator connection will not be able to be turned on. So when there's normal power, and the system is fully programmed over there, which they're going to program it and commission it next week. And when the battery comes here, you will not physically be able to turn the generator plug on if there is normal power there. So that is the Kirk key. That is what they did. That's what Align allowed them to do instead of a Kirk key.
Okay.
So one question with that generator outlet. So in the event, let's say it's the dead of winter, now you said none of the heating and air conditioning equipment or anything is on the emergency circuit. Does that emergency, or that generator outlet, does that only feed the emergency side?
It only feeds the emergency side, correct?
So we'd have to come up with a different plan. They tell us some transformer there went down in there and getting one for 3 days, and it's 20 below. We gotta come up with a different plan, how we're gonna heat the building in the meantime.
And I know on Alliance side, they have primary coming in from 2 different directions, and we're tied to that loop. So as long as our wire from here to the hospital, so they're coming, they can get fed off of 2 different complete primary substations. So the likelihood of that is pretty impractical. But they would be in much more need of it than you guys, so they're gonna get their stuff, figured out. And if that became the case, we could come, and we could have it all jumped over, and in 4 or 5 hours, we could be running all the equipment off a properly sized generator, to get that going in case of a worst case scenario. So that's basically, this section is, that's the whole purpose for this breaker, is just the main breaker, and it should never ever trip, and it should never really be shut off theoretically, but if it does trip, there's something probably obviously wrong, and we should have something looked at. So it's right now, you can read on here how many amps it's drawn. It's drawn 180 amps on the A phase, and you can kind of scroll through here. On the B phase, you're at 174, and it'll go up to 2,500 amps.
Each phase?
On each phase, yes. So, and that last one is 165. So it'll it's going to pick the largest load per phase, and it's going to highlight it. So once we let it cycle out, and that the arrow, and that it's on C phase now, but it's pointing to that. So if we go to the next, and that's B phase, and that's amps. A is amps, it's not A phase. But, so if you need to do that, pretty much all these breakers in here has basically the same setup. You can scroll through, if you want to see the amp load on it. Once the solar gets working, what this breaker does is this feeds the panel, the emergency section, which is basically the battery panel. So that'll feed that section, and once you're producing power off the solar, it's going to come back into here, and then it'll feed every load in here. And if there's any remaining load coming off the solar, it's going to go back onto the grid. And I think what they end up paying is they basically pay utility rates, so it's not a very high rate. So the system's kind of designed to use to produce what you guys use. If there's extra, it'll be going to the battery. Right now, the battery, as of now, is going to be set up for only emergency use. I think once you get it kind of figured out, it's all in programming. You could program it to use power at night, so you can use power. If you get set up, I know you can add onto the battery, so you can make a bigger battery. So if you wanted to save power during the day and use it at night, you could do that. So then, in that case, if they set up and that's all, it would be set up in the computer program of the battery, you would be allowed to send power from the battery back into that service, and whatever that service didn't use would come out and feed this service also at night. So you could theoretically feed all normal power loads in the building off the battery. So once that's done, but it's
At low draws, yeah.
at low draws, but it's only designed basically to give you 3 hours, and I think code mandates you have at least 90 hours or 90 minutes of power available. So if you ended up putting a bigger section of battery in, it's Tesla makes it so it's expandable, so you could add another section fairly easy. I think you can only add about 1 more section is all. They really got room on the pad. To go bigger than that, we would be, making that pad and that concrete block, taking some of that stuff out there.
If you're buying another battery, the blocks,
Yeah.
not any.
The block and the concrete works. Gotta be the least of the worry, so right now we got a few labels were made wrong, so we will end up getting labels all made for there, and we will get those permanently put on here. These labels kind of say what it's feeding. So T stands for transformer. 3N101 would just be the transformer name. So this breaker feeds that transformer.
3-phase, right?
It's-
Three.
Yep. 3 would be is their signal for high voltage for 277 480
Okay.
here. So if you get over on D1N01, the 1 stands for basically 120 208, and that's the L is just what they have for lighting. That's basically 277 stuff. N is normal. 3101, third floor is the panel or the floor it's on, and then 01 would be the first panel on that floor. So this one is 3N101, so which is in this room right behind you. Lighting 480, normal power, first floor, first panel. PVESS is going to be that section of gear. We're going to go to that room next, and then we got some other panels. We're going to end up, these are spares right now. We'll get printed labels for all those spares. This is a surge suppressor, which is up there. I don't know if you got a shit glare on there, but there's a couple dots. There's some LEDs. Better, but I may put this out. So it'll say if it's fully protected right here. If you look at this, and this was lit up in red, then it had a surge glow it's supposed to absorb it, and it'll kind of take itself out before it'll take out the rest of the load. So if there's a lightning strike, this is supposed to hopefully take most of the damage before it is, and it'll kind of blow itself up, and then you'll have to replace this in the case of a lightning strike. And this panel over here would be the low voltage distribution, which would be 120 208. We got a main breaker here that's fed directly from the transformer. And then all these panels will be R101 is receptacle is for receptacle panel. 1 would be the voltage 120 208. N again is normal. 301 would be our third floor panel, the first panel. And then we have 201, which is the first panel on second floor, which would actually be right directly above us. We got 202, which is the second panel on second floor, which is kind of down on that wing. And basically 203 would be over there. So when you get looking at 201 and 101, they're basically right on top of each other in the building. And when you get down to 203 and 201, they'll be kind of right on top of each other. They're off by a little bit over there. So we'll end up having a set of prints that we always leave here, and we'll probably end up putting it right between there. It'll kind of have, we'll have a construction plan that we had, and we'll kind of tuck it in there. So if anybody comes back or any other electricians come back, they can kind of look at it and they can see where it is. We will get a permanent set of as-builds to Kraus Anderson, so you guys will have that copy. But I always like to leave another set of the plans in the room, and it might not have a lot of writing on there, it might not have all our updates, but at least everybody has kind of an idea on where everything's kind of fed. We did not change a whole lot in the plan, so it would be pretty close to the most current plan. So then after this distribution panel, then it kind of goes around to all our receptacle panels. And we got our panel schedule here. Some of them are in red right now. That is stuff that we got to change and we got to identify. So we're going to end up getting a complete new sticker on here. I like to wait till we're completely out of here. So we got some stuff to do in dialysis, and we got some stuff, just in case anything changes, and then we don't have pencil marks all over it. So when we leave, I anticipate in like a month and a half to get permanent stickers on there. When you guys are open and running is when I would feel comfortable that we're not going to get called back. Here's an example of our covers when you get looking at our covers on all our boxes above the ceiling. We'll have the panel on there, we'll have what circuits are in there and spliced. If we pull a circuit through the box completely, we won't always label that. But any place you can find a wire nut, it should have what circuit it is. This is a relay panel. It comes down there and it comes from the relay panel. What has a relay number on it, what it does, and kind of what it feds. So when you if you have a question on, what outlet, there should be a box almost in every room about. So if you want to shut an outlet off and it's not labeled and you can't find it, you should be able to look up, pop your head above the ceiling and look at some of the boxes, above the ceiling, and you should be able to kind of figure it out. So all the lights, you can go we'll have a whip coming off every light, go into a box, and we will have on that box cover what panel it is. Here's circuits there. Sometimes in mechanical rooms, they'll be flipped over if we didn't know if it was going to get painted or not. So if you get to a box cover that's not labeled, there might be something written on the other side. So this is the power conditioner. This feeds the linear accelerator. We still got to put a label on here yet. This is where it's fed from. We got the circuit where it's fed from if you would need to shut it off for whatever reason to work on it. But I know the radiation department, they kind of know where all this stuff is, and I would think they're going to kind of be the only ones that will ever screw with this. And that is fed out of, so this says L3 101, circuits 1, 3, and 5. So L3 101 is the panel right next door, and if circuits 1, 3, and 5, we'll be able to go right in that panel and look at that breaker, and it'll also be labeled in the panel, so when you need to change it. Over here, these are fire alarm booster panels. So what these are feeding the strobes in this general facility area. So there are another 2 panels for this floor down on the east side of the building, and we can probably show you where those all are and walking through. They're right next to a couple other panels. There is one main fire alarm panel at the back lobby, which the fire department will go to it, and that kind of has everything, all the information you would need to know on it. This is Edwards system. This is just like what the hospital has everywhere. I talked to Banco, and they said they already trained a couple people on that. So if we need to get them back here, they can make it today. If we need to set something up, if you guys feel uncomfortable, we'll make Banco come back and get trained on it. But he said he talked to, I don't know if it's a guy,
Pat Smith or KJ.
yeah. So he kind of worked with one of them on there. And then just keep going around. These would be our 277 480 panels. This one is kind of for equipment all throughout this floor. These are basically our only 480 panels on this floor. We got some 12208 scattered around. And then these 2 over here are pretty much all the lighting loads outside and inside and on first floor. There's a second lighting panel upstairs. So all our lighting equipment will be kind of fed out of here. And then we got our lighting control cabinet, which we will have our reps coming later, and we'll kind of go through the programming and what we got to do. So right here we got heat tape. We got heat tape it's up on top of the vault roof. We're going down a couple of downspouts. That's all on up there. You don't have to do anything. It's got a temperature sensor that is, the wire goes up and it goes right out the wall right here. So it should all be kind of, this is saying it's got power, and none of these other lights are on. So there's no need for power. If you want to hit the test button, test once a year, that tests basically a ground fault. So to see if would be a short or something, and just to make sure it would shut itself off. So if there is a fault out there, this is supposed to shut itself off, and you'll have the alarm lights going to come on. So I would just kind of check on this before every winter. At least look at, see how the lights are and how the status is. To restart it, you should just hit the reset. you'll just reset and then it'll go through, and on the temperature, it'll either go to heat.
And to test it, just push and hold it.
Yep.
Push and hold it.
That's the test and the reset,
Okay.
that's the same thing.
Okay.
So you just hit that and it's gonna just short it out a little bit and it's gonna send some power on the ground and make sure it shuts off. You don't really have to worry much about it. And there is a little bit of heat tape that's on this upper roof, above the south entrance, and it just comes in the building and it basically just comes in the building 2 feet so the water doesn't freeze up on top of that roof. So there's 3 locations of the heat tape. 2 are on the vault, and then 1 is on the canopy in the front entrance.
That, so we don't have any primary drains on the vault. So the heat trace is on the primary drains. They're all outbound, you know, it's like a through wall scupper outbound of the vault. So that one's pretty imperative that those drains remain open because it is a bathtub up there. You know, it's 4 sides of, you know, 2 feet deep. So if you had snow or water buildup on there, you could potentially have a roof leak onto your $4 million accelerator. And I don't want to get that call.
What's the expectancy of the heat tape?
Our lighting rep is actually the supplier that sold that, so we can find that information. I don't exactly know for sure. I mean, it's all commercial grade heat tape. It's not the cheap stuff you can buy on Amazon. It's all commercial grade, and that should all. I don't think you're gonna find it at Menards. You can maybe try, but.
Yeah.
Do we want to go into the next electrical room? If you want to kind of, you want to kind of go through one of these a little bit. I mean, these basically you can just tell.
Oh, you go.
You got a little screwdriver in there?
Anything on this? No.
So I don't know if you got to get in here, but you can kind of go through. Right now, this is drawn 10 amps. You know, it'll kind of. That's the max load has been 56 amps that feeding that transformer. So right now the breaker is set to 400 amps. So you could adjust that if you wanted to lower your, which you shouldn't have to do. So there's, you know, and we can maybe have Chico run us through this, all this stuff a little bit more. He knows a little bit more about it than, I mean, you shouldn't really have to adjust much on these ever. I mean, you should never change the amp setting. You should never really, if it's tripping, you should probably end up getting a coordination study done and adjust the breakers. So right now, the breakers are set basically to the minimum, and they did not opt to get a coordination study. So we could end up paying Square D to come through and set all these breakers. But as of right now, it wasn't in the scope of the work.
So if it starts tripping out right away, do we call you or is it under warranty?
Yeah, it's not gonna, I mean, it's still set to 400 amps, but yes, you should definitely call us and we'll go through those next. I mean, pretty much none of these, I mean, the little breakers, I could see, you know, some nuisance tripping if people have heaters plugged in, but for the most part, these breakers should never really trip, otherwise there's something else wrong. So it's all well over designed and to protect itself from fire and from, you know, accidental tripping. So nothing is loaded to the max where you should have, you know, I mean, if you look at there, I mean, you're drawing 178 amps for the whole building. You know, this one's set to 400 amps. So if something is tripping on this, that means, you know, something's majorly wrong. And when we're going through it, the max that this breaker's ever thrown out was 58 amps. So it's got a memory in it, you know, and that's kind of the max that it was set at. So if there is a fault and we, you know, we can you know exactly what you're doing, I might have to get the book out, but you can come back and you can see, you know, what caused it, how long it was at, you know, whatever amps, and I think, you know, the building management system, I think they got the wire here, I don't know that they have, seen it communicate, but that, you're gonna be able to pick that up in the building automation system, that's tied into the network. So you should be able to kind of read, you know, on how much you're drawing, and once the solar gets produced in, it'll be kind of nice to kind of watch that, and you can watch how much solar is going in and how much solar is coming in here, and, you know, that number should drop on there, and you know, everything else here should be the same, so, yeah, cool. So that's kind of a little bit about this. So we can go on to the next electrical room. And this next room is gonna be the emergency electrical room. I'm out of here, Rick. All right, Peter. See you, Mark.
Smells like it's set up in there.
Yeah, you go ahead. Follow me.
Okay, so this is basically, this breaker is getting fed directly from that 800 amp breaker in that room. Comes over here, feeds this. This feeds completely this whole section. So all of this is our emergency, is everything considered emergency. Our life safety, our critical, our equipment branches are all fed out of here. Right now, while we do not have the battery here, we have a temporary generator, so that's why stuff's padlocked off and stuff is overtaped. Because we had we combined two of the panels together to get the generator, to get the elevator on the generator and keep all the lights on the generator. And right now the critical is not being fed at all from the temporary generator. So what we have here, we're gonna have our life safety panel, and once we take the tape off, that's what the letters would signify. So this is, to explain the key, the L is lighting, 3 is 277 480 volts, and C would be critical. That's the label they have. And then this one's going to be L3E 101, which the E would be equipment branch. And then this one's going to be L3S 101, which is life safety. So that's going to feed there. So then these will feed the panels, which are in the room over here, and those are basically our distribution panels for our equipment. This one is for the generator plug. So this one is the one I was talking about that you're not going to be able to turn on while normal power is on. Once the battery gets here and everything in this gets programmed. There's going to be quite a bit of programming that the battery supplier has to do to set all this up to make compliance with Alliant Energy. And then this breaker is going to be for the battery once the battery comes. Right now this is the solar. This is the solar arrays feeding down here. It comes off the roof, the solar, and it goes, there's a 400 amp disconnect outside the building, and that's basically for the fire department if they need to shut power off in case of emergency to the solar. And then after that breaker, it comes in here and it feeds this, and it'll feed everything in here. Whatever power is not absorbed by the battery and all these loads, it'll send back to the main gear, and all the normal power will be fed off the battery. And then whatever's left there is gonna go back onto the utility grid. This is kind of the same setup for turning these on. You know, you're gonna push to open, you're gonna hit that, and then there's gonna be a pump here. You're gonna have to pump it up 3 or 4 times if you need to turn it back on, and then this will turn yellow after you pump it up enough, and then you hit that, it's gonna shut itself. In this section is just gonna be the low voltage equipment that for all the battery stuff. So they got a section right now. There's nothing in here. It's pretty much empty. This cable right here is feeding the Kraus Anderson trailer right outside, so it's temporarily feeding that trailer for the time being. Right here is this is the 480 critical panel. Power comes out of the PVESS. It feeds this panel. This panel feeds the transformer, and then we feed the 12208 critical panel. And in here, this is where all outlets for the critical are fed. Almost all the red outlets. There's a few equipment branch red outlets scattered throughout, but almost any red outlet is, if it's tripped, is going to be fed from this on this floor, and then there's another one on second floor. This is going to be the life safety panel. This is going to be the 480. This is going to be the 12208 stuff. Right now, this is our temporary transfer switch to feed the generator. The generator's feeding. So if we lose power in here, it's going to take about 15 seconds before the generator kicks on, and then when power gets restored, it's going to automatically shut off. There is a cord plugged into the inside the garage, and I'll show you where that is. That's got to be plugged in. That is charging the battery for the generator. So if it's not plugged in, the generator won't start. And if you wanted to test this, otherwise I will be kind of testing this at least once a month until the battery comes in. So I don't think I need to explain this to you. It should all work, and I'm just, for my own purpose, I'm just checking to make sure it works. So over here we got the equipment branch panels. We have the 481 here. That's feeding the transformer, and then it's feeding the 208. The stuff that's fed out of this panel is basically the elevator is fed out of this panel. The lights in the elevator are actually fed out of the life safety panel from upstairs. We have, there's some sporadic outlets around the place that aren't. The equipment branch technically is not considered emergency, so outlets that aren't permitted in hospitals to be emergency, we fed them out of the critical branch. And that was all engineered by HSR. So that's pretty much everything in this room. Has anybody got any questions? Any questions, Megan?
I'm good.
Questions about the electrical end of it?
I don't think there is any
panels are.
Yeah.
besides some labeling, so, okay. We'll just kind of go around and we'll look at all our things. Okay, I'll
And are they, you know, or who knows, are they on a print someplace so that we're,
The panels?
yeah.
Yeah, so they'll be on, we're gonna leave a complete set of electrical drawings in the room. We're gonna give you guys a set of as-built. We'll give that to Kraus Anderson, and whatever else, I mean, if you want, we could, you could get another set of printed up, but I kinda have a leftover print that I'm gonna I always leave
Okay.
in
So
the electrical room of all jobs I'm on.
we'll get those as built as well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep,
'Cause-
that'll be included all in that big O&M.
Perfect. It just so that if a breaker trips someplace, we're not hunting half a day trying to find the panel that it goes to.
Yeah.
So, okay. I mean, it's labeled out, everything usually is labeled real nice and whatnot, but if you can't find the panel, it doesn't do any good.
Yeah. Yeah, and this one, I don't know, do you know what they're gonna label this room? I mean, they don't have the sticker on here. Will they have electrical written on the labels, Megan? For when there's an electrical panel in a room? Cause this one, I mean, this one's pretty hidden. If it doesn't have anything
Yeah.
written, on your
So
floor.
what is this room?
That's the storage room.
Oh, it's a storage room? Okay. I mean, all we'll do, we're going around right now, Dave's been working yesterday and today labeling just the door frames, but we aren't doing anything,
So in here, we basically have, it's one panel, but it's two tubs, so it's one feed is feeding this. So this is R1N 103, so it'll be fed from D1 101 in that room. That's a big stand-up one. It's got 225 amps feeding both of these panels combined. And then if you open it up, we got our directory here, and there's whatever you could need. We will kind of reprint these, once we're all done. Like I said, anything in red is.
So these are basically all for the first floor?
This is basically for this. We should go look at a print, and maybe we should look at a print first. And we can go back in the electrical room and look at a print, and kind of see how it is on the print. If you have questions on how that stuff's fed.
Quick question.
Yeah.
So like a lot of our projects, all the outlets are labeled. Are we labeling all these? Normally they got a sticker right on them.
Yeah. Okay, I can,
What with the breaker, the panel of the breaker?
okay, I know it wasn't in the spec for this one, but I think we can,
Okay.
I'll talk to Mark about it and we'll maybe, we could send somebody around for a day and get everything labeled.
Okay. That's just really helpful for our purposes.
Right. Okay, so. I wish we had one the whole building, where you can see it. So this is basically how the building is sitting. And when we look at prints, we're gonna have basically, this is gonna be A segment and this is gonna be the B segment if we look at the bottom of the plan. So this is A segment. We're right in this room right here. So this dashed line, everything here is fed from, what does it say? Oh, he's got it written here. So he's got it written here. So all this stuff from here over on this is fed from RN 101. So this is all fed out of this room.
All right.
And that is gonna end up, when we look at that segment, it's gonna come over and it's gonna take a portion of this corner. This stuff is all fed from that panel we just saw, and it goes basically out to the lobby, and the lobby is the dividing line. So here is the dividing line on what we have. This goes back. This comes and goes up. So this is all RN 101, and this is all RN 103, which is what we saw is basically everything back this way. And then our other panel is back here, which will feed this whole side of the building. All critical and all equipment branch are fed out of one panel per floor. So everything is fed out of the emergency room, and there's an emergency room upstairs. Or there's one electrical room upstairs. So this is the A segment, which this is all roof up there. So this is all future build out that you guys can build on, and that's where all those solar panels are. So this is all gonna be for panel 201, and this is all gonna be for 202. And this is all gonna be 203. Yeah, this is all 202. This one's 203. They had it labeled wrong on that last piece. So we got 102 here, we got 103 or 203 here, and we got 203. So they're all kind of right on top of each other. When you get looking at these, they're going to be all labeled there like that. So and we'll have a whole set of electrical said, we'll leave there, how long it stays there, it's kinda.
Yep. If you guys mark the outlets and stuff, you know, I'll know where, once I get used to it.
Once we get used to it, yeah.
That much everything showing up. You missed lunch though. You missed lunch?
And the labels on there, if you look in there, we got some in red writing, we're gonna, in a week or two, when we're completely done, we're gonna reprint them, so there's no written stuff, so, we kinda had those in here a little bit earlier, and stuff changes, we change it as we go. But that will be changed out in the next few weeks or a month or so. Then, so the solar is fed, it comes off the, we got to go to a combiner panel in the penthouse.
So you're
It comes
saying-
down, it goes to a disconnect for the fire department to shut off, and then it comes back into that. And all those, I don't know if I explained that, we'll look at that when we go look at all the, where all the other panels are, we'll sneak up on the roof. So this is basically the dividing line between our panels, so all this stuff's fed from our R1N 101, 103, over here is 101, and then basically on that side of that wall, that way is 102. Yeah, this is a lot of stuff. So nice, we've got a bunch of stuff in our electrical room. So this, like I said, is basically feeding from that lobby straight this way. That 101 panel kind of wraps around the corner a little bit and then go into a little bit of stuff over here. We got our NACs here, the main fire alarm panel, all the other stuff besides our strobes come out of here for basically this half of the building. Then there's 2 more in there, and then there's 4 more upstairs. So I don't, we can,
Who'd the lighting package come from?
Viking.
As lighting, okay,
Yep.
just for warranty.
Yep. There's Chico out here. He gave from Chico. Viking provided all the lights, so they came from him. So if there's a problem with them, you got your complaint guy here right now.
I'll just bug Andy, it's his job for me.
Yeah, Chris wants to
Yeah, Andy will take care of it.
So this next set of panels, kind of right above those, so this will all be 202. So 102 and 202 kind of do the same footprint on the different levels. So
Are these stacked? Are they stacked? Just like in reference? Oh, the other one's just below us?
they're
They're over there, okay, I didn't know if they
So
stacked.
they're close, well, they're somewhat close and they're not, the electrical rooms are, they got their own feed, they're not coming off of. The electrical room, the equipment, or the emergency stuff is fed straight from the lower floor to the upper floor with no, overcurrent in between them, so they're basically 2 panels on different floors. These are 225 amp feed, feeding both of these panels, 1 breaker. So, we got our fire alarm NACs for this half of the building up here. This is just feeds all the strobes. The audio, there's speakers here, the audio comes out of the main panel, and there's 2 different loops here for basically first floor and second floor in the penthouse are different loops. So we can go look at panel 203 next, and then we'll go into the electrical rooms.
I have a feeling I'll be working on those when they break. I'll never just pause on there. You can, even on those deep down wood ones?
We had to rewire one of them.
That's the way you
that's
went?
the way
Okay.
we went. So that's the easier way to do it, but it's not an easy way. These is what I would be most worried about maintaining.
that's gonna suck.
I was thinking of your bees.
No, that's all you.
That's you. All red.
So if you want, so we have dimmers here if they get too bright. We have the ones that stay on are emergency ones that need, or egress lighting. So,
I hate those.
I'm gonna call him the videotape this.
yeah. If they break, they better break within a year, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm really hoping for. I need that fail in the first 365. You must have had to do scissor lifting down there.
Yeah, we had an articulated scissors lift that came down and then rotated around. And now I think you can still get that type of lift in there, but it wasn't,
That's not
we
good.
were kind of wondering how we were gonna do that. We had a lift up here. So the elevator is able to carry, one of the smaller lifts up here.
The 19 footer?
So you'd be able to get
Yeah.
that far out from the rail.
We just want to have safety here, it'll be fun.
Enjoy it up now.
Well, you guys are only open during the day, so it's always light. That's
true.
Really need them on all the time anyway.
What the heck are those? Those fans?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Those will be another one of your deals.
Those are, why?
And they do have a 0 to 10 signal going down into them, so if you do replace them, you might need to get Train up here to kind of reprogram it. So if they're not working, there's a good possibility it's on Train's in.
Also, Train controls those?
So Train controls those. Alls we have is we got 120 outlet for them.
Fantastic.
Perfect.
So are those just on thermostat then? When it gets too hot up there, or who
I don't
knows?
know what
Who knows?
whatever Train has a program to do.
They're tied to the building elevation.
I know, but what's controlling them? Is it just
The building
temperature?
elevation, Temperature.
Temperature? Okay. That's
So
fine.
if we sneak, there's a panel right on this side of this wall, so I'm trying to think what the quickest way to get there is. Has anybody got a badge? Anybody got a Toma badge that works?
Suppose, let me try this one, Don.
Okay.
Suppose they just got me switched. Look at that.
Probably, because he wanted to go with the other guy.
So this half of the building, we're cut from these panels here. That back there, that's Trains.
Yep.
So this is kind of just all the outlets over on this half.
We'll find a way.
So the lighting control, this one is basically just, for the most part, it's got, the life safety circuits in the hallway. The life safety lights are on there, and then if there's power failure, they switch over back to normal or emergency on. So if we lose normal power in the hallways, the lights come on. So the relay cabinet shuts off. Right now it's programmed from, I can't remember what time they have it, certain time to 6 o'clock, and then it shuts off. But in the hallway, there are also occupancy sensors powering the normal power lights. So if those normal power lights shut off, it clicks emergency stuff on if the relay happens to be off. You follow?
I do. And I just already see where it's all going.
So, there is one relay over there for that lobby, so all that stuff in that lobby will shut off at a certain time, and then it sweeps off again at midnight. There is an override low voltage switch over there in that bank of lights, so you can turn it on and off. So if that somehow shuts off in the middle of the day or whatever, people can go hit the override will shut it off.
And you gotta make sure he knows where that is.
So we have it written, I'll show you where, there's one downstairs. in
He's
the
gonna
lobby.
need to know where that is.
There's one downstairs in the lobby, and then there's one upstairs. in the
Do they have daylight harvesting here too?
No.
Okay, good. What's that? Huh?
It
No,
didn't-
sorry, yeah.
It didn't work with it. So we'll go back that way and, so this lighting control panel is basically just the hallway lights, and there's one relay for that lobby in there. I was telling them there is, in case it somehow happens to shut off, there is a low voltage override switch out there that you just hit it and it'll shut all the lobby lights off out there in the lobby, and it'll turn all of them on. And then it will shut off after business hours, and then it will sweep again to shut off, so they're not on. So I can go show you where that switch is. Then we have one NAC over here for this floor. There's 3 NACs up here. We saw them all. They're all right by the panels. And then we'll go look at the main fire alarm panel after we look. That you just hit it and it'll shut